Hey guys, Dave RTC coming to you with another video. This is going to be my top 16 post-ban list Rebecca deck list. I was in the Carta Magica Treasure Cup and I went 8-2 again, unfortunately. But fortunately, with that record, I was actually 12th place. So as you guys know, I just put a Rebecca deck list previously, but that was before the ban list, and now due to the ban list I had to change the deck, went to the treasure cup, and now I actually have a good opportunity to go through the deck list again with you guys, show you guys the changes I made and why, and explain why Rebecca is the way to go before we go to OPO 5. This allows for anybody that still want to play Rebecca competitively understand why you should play her, and for those who hasn't tried Rebecca, to try her. Now there is a warning for those that haven't played her. She is one of the hardest decks to master. It's gonna take time, so since we're close to OPO 5, maybe that's the rationale you might stay away from her. But if you ever did want to try her out and you thought that she wasn't still competitive, this video hopefully will change your mind. So the way I'm going to structure the video is I'm going to go through the deck list. I'm not going to try to explain every card, but just I'm going to go into the ratios and why it shows what it shows versus what the card does. Because in the other video before this one, I went into more detail. So if you want to see the details of the cards and what they do, please look at that video. If you want to see just mainly this deck list, and this is what I'm going to try to do. After the deck list, for those who don't care, you guys can sign off. Thank you for watching, because then I'm going to go into the matchups and understand what is the worst, the 10 round matchups I did in Treasure Cup, who I won and who I lost to, and then understand my worst matchups to the best matchups, and that will give you hopefully the rationale why you should still play Rebecca in this meta. So Rebecca, black and blue, 5 life, can't attack leader. This allows you to play the black and blue colors, and we're going to go ahead and start with 3 Colosseums. You must run 3. 4 is too cloggy, 2 is too little. With 3, I was able to see all my stage cards, sometimes not early enough, in all 10 rounds of the Treasure Cup. From there, you run 4 1-drop Rebecca. She's a searcher, helps you build your trash. She's a counter, you must run 4. From there, you run 4 Gyats, 2k counter. Does have a nice effect that lets you attack active characters, but he's mainly a searchable 2k, so you must run 4 of them. From there, you run 4 Idios. He is your shunt blocker. Idios, we'll go ahead and just talk about it real quick. I started with 2, and the way this meta developed, I think you have to run 4. He's a very good card. He helps you slow down the game. Very good against yellow and your blue matchups. So definitely try him out at 4. You could try him out at 3, but I think less than 3 is not good. So between 3 to 4, definitely try him out. From there, you have 4 Bartolomeos. Bartolomeos is a 2k counter and a blocker. What more can I say? He's searchable. Definitely run him at 4. From there, you have 3 Kyros. Kyros is your sticky boy. I count him as your suitor leader because he can't really get popped unless you're playing against blue, who bottom decks and put him back to your hand. So because of that, you still want to run him. He is very good. He's able to pop a 1 cost or below and helps you build your mill to build your trash. The reason I still only run him at 3, he's mainly very good against red, green, and which due to the post ban list, there's going to be less of them. So that gives you the rationale to keep him at 3. But against the black and the purple matchups and the mirror match, you need to see him. So that's the reason you still want to run him at least at 3. But 3 to 4 is definitely playable. I just think with 4, I was able to, instead of running the 4 Kyros, I was able to add another tech card that I can run that will help me against the other matchups. And 9 times out of 10, I only maximum play 2, and the other one I use either discard or mill. But 3 to 4, like I said, is not bad. From there, the first tech card is Dofi. I do not understand why I don't see Rebecca's play this Dofi. He is very good. Most people, if you want and you don't like him, is to run 2k counters in his spot. So you can run either Tashigi or Kaya. Mainly Tashigi is what I see other Rebecca players play. But I think Dofi is much better and this is why. He's a blocker, he's a 3-drop, and he's a 4K. He can't really get pop, and if he survives, you put 1 down, you're able to poke and put it on pressure. The main other thing is that he's a counter, and on play, you see your top 5, allowing you to organize it in a way that's going to help you get to that late game safer. Also, it'll help you organize the top 5 that you can activate her effect that same turn that you play Dofi, draw the card that you need to hopefully survive next turn or get a 2K counter, less pressure, and then draw a non-Dressrosa card next turn safely without milling it. And 9 times out of 10, your non-Dressrosa cards are your tech cards to help you beat those matchups. So just with that alone, I tried to bump it up to 3 Dofis because how good he is. But unfortunately, I could not find a non-Dressrosa card to remove for the 3rd Dofi because I also have a kind of rule to keep the non-Dressrosa cards at a minimum. The highest I feel like that you can play that's non-Dressrosa is 10. More than 10, I think you're risking it too much in my opinion. I mean, going to 11 or 12, I haven't tried it, but with just 10 non-Dressrosa cards, I whiffed my Rebecca effect twice. Now, those who play Rebecca and play against Rebecca know that we all activate Rebecca's effect a lot during our matches. So for whiffing 2 times in multiple effects in 10 rounds, definitely still not bad numbers. But that's at 10 non-Dressrosa cards, so imagine if I bumped it up even more. So that's why I try to keep it at 10. So if I want to add a 3rd Dofi, I have to remove a non-Dressrosa card to substitute for the 3rd Dofi. And right now I just can't do it. But definitely run them at 2. If you can add them to 3, try them at 3, but at least 2. You're going to see the world of difference on how you can make sure you get the tech cards that you need, but also how awesome it feels, even in the late game, to organize it in a way that you need to go ahead and activate her effect, play another card that you need, get the blocker that you need, or even more 2Ks that you need to survive the next turn. So definitely an underrated card. It's just I don't know why. I mean, it's not underrated. Every blue player basically plays this card, even the Queen deck, but it's just underrated in the Rebecca builds that I'm just very surprised. So definitely try them out. I don't think you guys will regret it. From there, we play 4 Olympuses. Oh, nice. I just took a guess there. So Olympus, we all know what he does. Bread and butter for the Rebecca deck. Helps you build your trash. Helps you reduce costs. Must run 4. The only tip I can give you guys is that they always will try to answer Olympus. So try to keep Olympus in your hand. And then just play him to activate his effect right away to get rid of a big boy. And then if he survives the following turn, then you keep him on the field. But don't just put him out there and then pray that he survives until you need to use his effect. Okay, because they will always try to get rid of them. Unless you're playing against yellow. If you play against yellow, go ahead and build all the Olympuses that you need because it should be fine. From there, we play we play 4 Sabos. So Sabo, MVP of the deck. I've said multiple times other cards for MVP, but after playing multiple times, especially in this Treasure Cup, Sabo is the MVP of the deck. It's a 5 cost for 6K blocker that lets you draw 2, discard 2, so that you get rid of the extra stage card, extra key resist, or whatever you need to get the stuff you need. And it also helps you protect your whole field, so then you can play them, swing with your guys, know they won't get popped, and then in the next turn, your opponent's turn, they will also not get popped, allowing you to actually block and not worry about them removing your blockers. I love to combo Sabo with Idio and then play Sabo, so actually your Champ blocker will be a Champ blocker because it won't get popped unless it gets bottom deck. And even if it gets bottom deck, they're using either 4 to 9 down to bottom deck a Champ blocker, which they won't do, so you already know that blocker is gonna make it happen. So just stuff like that is possible due to Sabo, and only reason why Rebecca, to be honest, is still playable in this post-ban list. From there, it's 1 Garp. As you guys know, in my other lists, I ran 2 Garps. Garp is very, very good. Unfortunately, he's not that good that I'm able to justify him to put him at 2, but I've tried boys to get him to 2. I just can't do it with my hard rule of 10. You'll understand why when we go through the rest of the deck list. But if you guys want to bump it up to 2, it's very justifiable. He is a 5 for 6k, able to pop a 4 cost or below by discarding a card from your hand. As a Rebecca player, and a lot of other Rebecca players out there understand that some people are going to make sure you have cards in your hand in the early game so you don't continue to activate Rebecca's effect over and over again. And Garp will help you mitigate that. So what happens is you play him for 5, you activate his effect, you discard a card in hand, and now hopefully you have 6 or less cards in hand to activate her effect, allowing you not only to build your trash, build the cards, but now he's rested. So then he's easy to defend because he's a 6k, but most people are going to try to get rid of him unless they can go for game that turn, which then that's a whole different story. But they're going to try to get rid of him because they know if he survives, he can go sideways again and help you continue to activate her effect, but also control the board for no Dawn. So for them trying to get rid of him, they're gonna either you can protect him because he's a better stat line than your leader, or if he dies, then they got rid of him and actually slow down the game because they didn't attack your leader, so you still have a healthy life. So then you can then combo with another cards in your hand to either build more pressure, etc., etc. So that's all the good things about Garp. Discarding cards in your hand, controlling the board, using him as scapegoat. Now the cons of him is that he's not a counter and he's not searchable. So there's a high chance that you will mill him. That's the rationale to actually play more of him, so you can eventually see him in your hand, but I just couldn't find room. So definitely try Garp out, at least a 1-of. He does make a big difference, especially against the red-purple law that runs all 4 drops. From there, you're going to play Hayudin. 1 Hayudin is all the room I have. He is an amazing card. The more I use him, the more I want to bump him up to 2. So if you guys do find room, definitely try him out to 2, but if not, at least 1. He's a 1k counter Dressrosa, so he's searchable, but his stat line is a 6 for 7. Low expensive, but with this stat line, it's actually very, very good because with your Coliseum, you're able to bring him out, swing at a rested character for 7k, and 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get rid of that character or even a blocker, and then he has an activated main effect that able to rest your leader. You get to -4, so then you can combo either Garp that's already out to pop a 8 cost, or other event cards that you have in the deck to get rid of a 10 cost or a 9 cost. So you're technically, by just playing him on that turn, you're able to swing and potentially get rid of 2 threats on your opponent's board. And then because he's sideways, they know that every turn that he survives, just like Garp, he can activate main at -4 cost without using any Dawn, so he can control your opponent's board very, very easily with combo potentials. So then your opponent is going to try to get rid of him. With the 7k stat line, he's much, much easier to protect. And if you can't protect them, then at least he was used as a scapegoat as well, plus getting rid of 2 people on your opponent's board. Like, very, very good card. And that's the reason you can justify to bump him up to 2, but definitely at least 1, because then you have not only your 4 Olympuses, you have another cost reducer that you can count on just in case if you don't see Olympuses or they get rid of all your Olympuses. From there, we have 4 gear for Luffy's. As you guys know, I used to just run 3. I think 3 is still a very good number, but because the red-purple decks came out, this is what keeps you from losing against those matchups. He is the MVP against that matchup, which is good because you're still you need to still run them for the deck anyways. So by actually being a hard counter against red-purple law, it's just a cherry on top. So definitely run them at 4. Definitely go first against red-purple law. Definitely have your Coliseum out, ready to go, so when Luffy comes out, you can control their board, and then it just becomes an easier match. Other than that, Luffy does Luffy, and he is one of your game enders and pressure on your boards, especially since he can attack active characters, which is a big deal. So that's why. And obviously reach standing and double attack and all the beautiful stuff Luffy can do. From there, we run another tech card, which is 2 Ishos. This is where a lot of people will be like, whoa, no, I'm kidding. when I first played Rebecca, the people that played against me, and especially my locals, knew they all know how much I love Isho. But also, I played Isho immediately when Rebecca first came out. I didn't see why nobody was playing the Isho. It's such a good card, especially since Whitebeard was still meta. The thing was that the more I played against Whitebeard with the new way they build the Whitebeard, Isho became less impactful. So that's why I took Isho back out, and that's why you guys don't see him on my deck list. Now, post ban list, I think Isho is the way to go again. You don't understand how many times this man has won me games due to post ban list, especially since your opponent won't expect the Isho, just because a lot of Rebecca's don't run Isho. Now, maybe all the Rebecca players watch my video and trying Isho, and they also fall in love with Isho like how I did. Then your opponents will expect the Ishos. But until then, they won't expect the Isho, so that means you're able to play him on curve, hopefully. Like, that's the best case scenario, is that you want to see Isho on curve, and hopefully you can make that happen with the Dofi. But if you go second, you play him on curve, you're definitely, with his effect on play, if your opponent has 6 cards or more in hand, you discard 2 randomly. Not only that can help you, well, you're going to get rid of 2 cards, so that's already winning, but if those 2 cards, if one of them was a 10-drop Big Mom, a Red Rock, or 10-drop Kaido, even better for you. You're just like, you just gain a huge advantage by having a big boy on board, plus getting rid of their game plan, which does happen. It is, was it a 30% chance? Is it like 2 out of 6? That's 1/3. So a 30% chance of hopefully you hitting a good card in their hand. But even if you don't, you're hopefully getting rid of a 2K counter or whatever. So you're still plussing. If they don't get rid of him, his second effect is Dawn 1, -3 across the board. If you already have Garp out, you can play Isho, -2 on your cards on your opponent's hand if they have 6 cards or more in hand. And then you can 1 Dawn him, and then with Garp, you're able to rest and pop a 7 cost or below. If he stays in the field with just 1 Dawn, your Kyruses are popping 4 costs, your Garp is popping 7 costs or below, your Bastardos are popping between 7 to 9 costs. Like, there's no, just by having this guy out there in the presence, your deck becomes very, very strong. He's also, because of his stat line, 8 to 9k attacker, he's a guy that can pressure the board and easy to defend as well. So just all the good things about Isho. Now, of course, there's negatives. He is not searchable and he's not a counter. And if you don't play him on curve, it just feels like you should never play him at that point. And also, there's a mistake that people do when you have Isho, is that they don't play him because your opponent doesn't have that magic 6 cards in hand. They only have like 4 or 3. So then they're like, oh, I'm wasting. But sometimes just even playing him just because of that cost reduction and the stat line just helps you gain so much momentum with the Rebecca. So don't fall that mistake to do not play him because your opponent doesn't have 6 cards or more. I understand that's amazing, but just don't forget to just play him, because I've seen people lose games because they don't play their big boys because they don't activate their efficient. For example, I'm digressing here, but I see somebody not play their 10-drop Kaido because their opponent had like maybe just a Kaya, so they wanted to like keep the 10-drop until it was actually useful to bounce 2 important cards on your opponent's side of the field. I get that, but if he just played that 10-drop, he would have had so much pressure that the opponent I think it was a blue to blue mirror match, so the opponent didn't have red rock, so they couldn't answer the 10-drop, and he could have just put so much pressure against the opponent's blue croc that they couldn't play their 10-drop because they didn't have any big boys. But 2 to 3 turns later, that opponent blue croc played their 10-drop, and then the momentum shifted. So don't make that mistake with the Isho, that you have to wait until your opponent has 6 cards or more in hand. Okay, that was the whole digression because of that. But other than that, guys, that's the benefits of him. That's the negatives of him. Definitely try him out. You will not regret him. And the other thing that I was going to say, that before I digress, this also gives you a turn 2 play. Most Rebecca's, doesn't matter if you go first or second. I get that, but going second just feels even much better now when you do have Isho in hand, ready for your 8th Dawn turn. From there, also going second helps you with your 10 drop. 2 10-drop cooldowns, we all know how much I love this card. With Rebecca, it just makes the Rebecca deck feel much better, allowing you to have a constant -5 across your opponent's field. Just helps your Kiros pop 6, your Garps pops 9, your Bastardos, and your 3 Swords hit everything. So such a game changer. This card on its own helps you beat against blue if they can't red rocket, and it helps you beat against yellow. So definitely a must play. I would not be mad if for those that want to bump him up to 3. But the problem is now that red purple Luffy and Law is out, just know he feels worse because of those matchups. So that's the only problem will be if you bump him up, that he becomes useless against red purple, in my opinion. Mainly because they run round tables. Can you imagine 10 dropping and they just round table bottom deck and then build board, and you're just losing tempo. So just be careful using him in the red purple matchups, but in the other matchups he is definitely useful. That's why I think you should still run him at least at 2. You can argue to bump him to 3. From there we have 2 King Kong guns. I still believe that King Kong guns should run at 2. Mainly because it's an end gamer, gives you 6k power plus a double attack. You have 15 to trash. Definitely combos well with the Luffy. It helps you control the board with Luffy, because then you can swing 13 even add more Dawn to your Luffy to get rid of 2 guys to control the board. I get that as well. So that's the argument to run at 3. Just be careful adding him at 3, because as you guys can see, these are non-counter event cards. You run a lot of non-counter event cards. Plus you run the 2 10-drops, plus the Ishos, plus the Garp, plus the Kirus. So you're going to have a lot of non-counter cards. So that's a justification to keep them down to 2, because you're just going to use it in the end game to end the game most of the time, and you can recycle it. But if you want to run it to 3, by all means, but in my opinion, I think 2 is perfect. From there, we run 3 Bastardos. Bastardos is another MVP event card in the game. Lets you pop 4 costs in the early game, lets you pop 6 costs in the early game, and then when you combo with your 10-drop Ishos or Lumbuses and Hayudins, you're able to pop basically everything in the late game, allowing you to basically have a pseudo red rock just for 4 Dawn. What more can I say? It's searchable, has a beautiful trigger that lets you pop 5 costs or below. Like, you need to run this card at least at 3. You can make the argument to bump up to 4, but like I mentioned before, I bumped it down to 3 to give room for the Garp. Understand the Garp is not a Dressrosa, so that's the argument that you're able to search the Bastardo. But remember, Garp, if it survives, it can continue to go sideways versus just one-time Bastardo. And the second thing is the Garp can be used as a scapegoat and a body on the board, versus this is not a body on the board. So they could still be able to add in pressure to your leader. So that's my rationale to keep it at 3, but you can definitely run the Bastardo at 4. Last but not least is my last blue cards. We have 1 Red Rock and 2 3 Swords. These cards are interchangeable. This is what I always think about to keep adding or removing. I'm like, oh, should I run 3 Red Rocks? Should I run 3 3 Swords? There's no right answer. The only tip I can give you is that if you run against a lot of blue and yellow, then definitely run 3 Red Rocks. But if you're gonna go into a treasure cup or regionals, just remember the most common decks right now are yellow, blue, yellow with queen as well, purple, and green. With purple and green, you want to have this guy ready to go. This guy plus Bastardo is going to help you with the early game to get you to the late game. And in my opinion, Rebecca is a queen of the late game. So I don't have to worry about the late game, because I can, from there, that's my playtime. That's my time for Rebecca to shine. And you should be able to do fine without the extra red rocks when you get to a late game. What you want to do is get to the late game healthy without your opponent getting too much advantage, and that's the rationale why I run the 3 Swords versus 3 Red Rocks. Now, if you're gonna play, if you know you're going to locals and everybody's playing Blue Croc which then I recommend not to play even Rebecca. But if you do still want to play, and your opponents are playing blue crocs, yellow queens, and yellow cats and big moms and Yamato, then definitely run 3 red rocks. It makes your matchups much easier. But if you're gonna go, like I said, in a treasure cup or regional setting where there's gonna be a little bit of everything, then I think you should, in my opinion, go with 3 swords and red rock. The second thing is, it feels bad that when you have the 10 drop out, that you red rock somebody. You know what I'm saying? Because with the 10 drop out, you already get to -5 across your opponent's board, and this guy's able to remove 5 drops. So then you're removing everything on the field with just 4 Dawn, instead of wasting 2 more Dawn to do a red rock when you have a 10 drop out. The good thing about red rock though, and the other side, is that if you don't have any combo cards out there, your opponent's not letting you to build any combo cards, or for some reason you're not drawing them, red rock is just an easy out to control your opponent's board without needing your combo cards. So that's the caveat of both. In my opinion, I'm just gonna leave it like this unless the meta changes. But like I said, it's gonna be a player preference. You can do 2 red rocks, 1 3 swords. You can do 3 swords, or you can do 3 red rocks. Try each of them out and see which one you like. But you have to at least run 3 of these blue event cards, just to make the deck run easier, especially against these matchups. Okay, guys, beautiful. So that is the deck list, post ban list deck list there. So for those who don't care about the matchups, thank you guys for watching again. Hopefully you guys try out this deck list without changing it first, and if you do change it, those are the changes I recommend. So my 10 Treasure Cup matchups, I don't remember the exact order, so I'm not gonna go by order. I'm just gonna go by my wins and then losses. So my 8 wins were Pure Red Ace, Blue Yellow Queen, Katakuri, Big Mom, Katakuri, Red Green Law, Red Purple Law, and Isho. Yes, you heard right, Isho. Isho was not in the beginning tables. This man was in table 9 with a, was he, 7-2 record? Yeah, 7-2 record, table 9. Just unfortunately, when we go into matchups, black, like any black deck other than Rebecca versus Rebecca, Rebecca should win. So unfortunately for him, he had to play the Rebecca in table 9. So those were my 8 wins. My 2 losses were Pure Blue Croc, no surprise there, and Red Purple Luffy. With Red Purple Luffy, not to make any excuses, but that was my first Red Purple Luffy I ever fought. I played against a lot of Red Purple Laws, but I didn't know what to do against Red Purple Luffy. I didn't understand the effect. I mean, it's not a complicated deck, but I didn't know the deck list they run. I didn't know they ran Kings, so that kind of threw me off for them to pop my Olympuses. But the matchup does feel like in Rebecca's favor, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I've only played against 1 Red Purple Luffy, so I do want to play against more of them to understand the matchups, and then I can grade them accordingly. So that was my fault for not playing against that deck and understanding that deck list and what to expect. And then Pure Blue Croc, that's just going to lead us towards the matchup. So let's go ahead and start with the worst matchups being Pure Blue Croc. Pure Blue Croc is not even close, man. It's 80% win rate on the Blue Croc, 20% on the Rebecca, and that's me being generous. It's probably more like 90-10. That's how strong that Blue Croc counters the Rebecca. Now with the deck list, like I said, you run 3 red rocks, you run the 10-drop Kuzans, you go second, you do have a fighting chance. You can maybe, best case scenario, get it to 50-50. And that's if you draw what you need to draw, go second. The good thing about Rebecca, you do draw what you need to draw most of the time, except for your tech cards. The tech cards you have to hopefully either pray or run cards like the Blue Dofi to make it even better, but then you have to pray that you draw the Blue Dofi, if that makes sense. While the Blue Croc, they don't have anything that can search other than doing the top 5 like how we do the top 5 with this Dofi. But there's still a chance they don't see their big boys. or the red rocks. And if that happens, then you're definitely doing a 50-50 against the blue croc. But if they do see some red rocks, some big boys, either two Mihawks, two 10 drops, or whatever, then the matchups just become harder. And that's not including the Sogeking that lets them draw to discard to even have a higher chance to not only control your board, but also draw the cards that they need to draw. So with the tech cards, there's a chance, probably get it close to 50-50. But if they see everything that they need to see, even with your tech cards, you're not gonna do well. Of course, tip is go second and look for Isho and look for your 10 drop Kuzan. Because if you go second and you're able to play Isho, there's a chance you're able to discard either the target that you want to hit when you play Isho. It's either their 10 drop Kaido or their red rock. If you're able to discard any of those when you discard two, even though it's random, then you're hopefully winning the game. Because if your 8 drop or your 10 drop stays on the field, then that's the only time I can think that Rebecca has maybe a 52 to a 48 against the blue croc. But you have to go second. You have to play the Isho. You have to, hopefully when you discard their cards, you discard their 10 drop or their red rock. On their turn, it's turn 9. They cannot Mihawk your 8 drop, so that's a positive. And if they have red rock, they'll have to red rock you right away, because if Isho sticks, then that's when the game goes in your favor. If they red rock your 8 drop, then you can play your 10 drop Kuzan if you have them also back to back, right? So that means you have the 8 drop on curve, you play the 10 drop on curve, and if you hopefully discard a red rock and then they play the red rock, hopefully they don't have the third red rock, especially since you don't kill any Miss Sundays, for them to 10 drop to red rock your Kuzan. If your Kuzan sticks, they cannot 10 drop on the back turn to your 10 drop Kuzan. It just doesn't work. So because of that, if your 10 drop sticks and they can't 10 drop you now, then that's when the advantage turns to you. But you see all the stuff that needs to happen for you to even get a winning advantage or even like a 50-50. So that's why the blue croc is the hardest matchups. I made it in a way that you can maybe have a chance, but even then it's a matchup you want to avoid. So that being said, if you're locals or if you feel like the regionals and treasure cups are going to be all mono blue crocs, then do not play Rebecca. The good thing is that's not how the game is right now in the game state. There is going to be some mono blue croc, but it's not the most common deck in those treasure cup and regionals. So definitely you're able to still play Rebecca and just hope you dodge those mono blue crocs that are going to play in those big competitive scenes. So from there, the next bad matchup is pure blue Dofi. The good thing pure blue Dofi is his effect is not as deadly compared to blue croc against Rebecca, because they play rested characters, and with your stage card you're able to pressure those rested characters and then still control the board. They still run red rocks, Mihawk, and 10 drop Kaido, so that's the reason the matchup is still in their favor if they see those cards. And that's why it's like a 60-40, but I definitely prefer to play a pure blue Dofi versus a pure blue croc, especially with these tech cards, because then the matchups definitely become easier against the blue Dofi. From there, we go into blue yellow queen. I dare to say blue yellow queen is a 50-50. I think it's one of the funnest matches to play once both players are good, and I can even say that the matchup is a little bit favorable to the Rebecca players if both players are the same skill level and the Rebecca players know what to do, because the matchup is just very close. It's a 50-50 match, and it's a 100-0, 100-0 on either way. What do I mean by that? If the Rebecca player is able to play either Isho or 10 drop and it sticks on the board, I don't see how you lose. Like, you have to legit just surrender at that point for you to lose. Like, if they cannot answer those two big boys, and I don't mean like both of them, just I mean, if the 8 drop sticks, you're winning, and if the 10 drop sticks, you're winning. That's what I mean. So they have to answer both. They can't leave one there on the board unless they're gonna go for game that very next turn, because then you just beat the queen very, very easily. That's how severe it is. But same thing the other way. If the queen player sees 3 red rocks early or 2 red rocks and have 2 big boys already out, and and you can't establish your big boy out, then they automatically win the game. You see what I'm saying? So both players have extreme win conditions if either one sees them. You play your big boys, they see no red rocks, you win. They play their big boys and have red rocks, and you can't establish board and pop their big boys, they win. And it's not like even close. It's a immediate win. If neither player is able to establish their big boys, so for example, they play Yamato, I play Orlumbus, activate Orlumbus effect, play Bastardo, kill Yamato. Next turn they play Mihawk, bottom deck Orlumbus. I play Hayudin, activate Hayudin, Bastardo, kill Mihawk. Next turn they Katakuri the Hayudin. So then I play, I don't know, Orlumbus into a Garp, kill the Katakuri. And then next turn they play another Yamato, or they don't have more big boys now, so then they red rock my my Orlumbus and then attack over the Garb. So then I protect the Garb, and then I play Isho, and then they Katakuri the Isho. So then I play 10 drop. They red rock it, they swing with the Katakuri, and then I play Luffy, swing over the Katakuri, and you see what I'm saying? So it goes back and forth like that, and eventually the Rebecca wins because the queen cannot recycle their big boys that went to the trash. And that's how even though it's 50-50 at that point, because it just goes back and forth like that, the queen will lose out of steam eventually, and the Rebecca does not, because she is the late game. She's a true late game queen. So if the queen tries to get you to that late game state, you should win all the time. But you have to play that back and forth. If at any point the queen does not have any more big boys in their hand, or even in their whole deck, but let's just assume just a hand, then you should start winning. If you cannot kill their big boys because you don't have the Orlumbus or the Bastardo, because of Forge you need both, but the good thing is you can search it, but say you're searching, you don't see it, and then they continue to establish big boys, then you lose. And that's the 50-50. That's fun to sorry. Sorry about that. That's the 50-50. That's fun to play. So yeah, that's the queen. That's why I put queen at 50-50, because of that matchup. But remember, it can also be a landslide either way. From there, hopefully I explained that very well, but if not, I'll try to just put like a match so you guys can see what I'm talking about. From there is the Rebecca Mirror. Definitely that's 50-50. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and put the red, purple, Law, and Luffy at the 50-50 mark. Luffy for sure, because I've only played against one, even though it feels like Rebecca could have the advantage against it. I won't know unless I play multiple matches against red, purple, Luffy. So that's why I'm just going to leave him at the 50-50 mark. But against Law, I've only played against maybe 20 matches with red, purple, Law, including the one in the Treasure Cup. It feels like it's an easy win for Rebecca, but I've only played, like I said, only 20, so I can't give you guys a true assessment against it. And remember, the red, purple, Law players are also learning that deck because it just came out. I mean, yeah, you can play in the sim, but real life is different. So that's why I'm going to just leave both red, purple decks against Rebecca in the 50-50 mark, and we'll see how it goes from there. From there, we go to red, green, Law, and Zoro post ban list. Even though I switched the deck to become more late game oriented, it still feels like it's an easy match for Rebecca versus red, green, Law, and Zoro post ban list. So definitely, there you go. It's like a 60-40. From there is pure red ace. Pure red ace, there's nothing they can do against Rebecca. So Rebecca just beats them with Kirus and Sabos and controlling their board and bottom decking their Marcos. From there, we're gonna go to pure. No, we're gonna go to purple. Purple is, and the higher I'm going, it's the easier it is in the favor of Rebecca, if that makes sense. So red green law and Zoro is like 60-40, I want to say. Pure red ace is like 65-35. Purple decks, Kaidos and Magellans, it's like 70-30. What I mean by that is because with your Kiroses and Sabos, you basically win the game. And if they 5-drop Magellan, you just 3 swords at back. That's why I like 3 swords. And there's no negative to just bottom deck the Magellan when they play him on curve, because then you use 3 swords. Of course, they have to have the Magellan. You need to have the 3 swords. If you don't, it really doesn't matter. The Magellan doesn't make it or break it against you. The main thing you gotta watch out for when you're playing against Magellan is the 9-drop Kaido. When you're playing against Kaido, it's the 10-drop Kaido and the 9-drop. So as long as you keep that in mind, you should be fine. After that, it's against any other black that's not the mirror match. So Isho, Smoker, Lushi, it feels like 75-25. There's really nothing else they can do. You both play Sabos, but you can 3 swords and Red Rock their Borsalinos and Sabos. They don't continually draw cards in their hand. You do. So eventually they're discarding cards and they're just losing advantage while you're still controlling the board. So you use a better control deck and have more cards in hand, and you can bottom deck their stuff. What more can I say? From there, let's see. So that's purple. That's black. I think from there, let's go with this yellow. Yellow is your one of the easiest matches. It's like 80-20, and the reason I do 80-20 is because I'm being generous to yellow players. I would have said 99.1% to be honest, but I'm being nice. 80% win rate, 20% loss rate against the yellows. It's such a free win. Like, the only reason you lose with Rebecca against yellow is because you don't know the matchup and you misplay. Not because the yellow player did anything crazy to make you lose. It's just you just didn't understand what to do, or something crazy must have happened, which is very rare. Now, I'm gonna have to put a video up to show you guys examples for those who doesn't believe me, but it's the same thing over and over again. Your boy is just sipping tea when I play yellow, because I already know how it's gonna turn out every time. You're gonna be at 0 life, they're gonna be at 200 life. I'm exaggerating, but they'll probably be between 7 to 10 life, and you're gonna have a cost reducer, a Luffy sometimes. Hopefully you do have the Luffy, but definitely cost reducer, Luffy sometimes, and then 2 blockers. And then you rinse and repeat. Your opponent's gonna have nothing on the board, and if they do have something on board, it's either a pudding or a brulee that they're eventually gonna swing with because they have no other choice. And then you're just gonna remove all their big boys, the ones that they can play, to the trash, so they have no big boys left. And then eventually you can start whittling them down, and they can never end the game because it's yellow. And that's it. Hopefully I can't explain that well, but it's always like that. There's only 2 lines of play that they can do that's even efficient, and both of them are not good against Rebecca, and that's why you win. They can't close games against Rebecca. And not even that, that's just normal Rebecca. We're not even including the tech card Rebecca. The tech card Rebecca that runs Ishos and 10 drops is even easier against the yellow players. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on, why there's a misconception that yellow destroys Rebecca. I mean, you definitely do need to know how to play against it, and the Rebecca player cannot make a mistake. But once you know what to do, there's no reason why you will make the mistake, and then it's just frustrating for the yellow player because they feel like they're winning all game and they think they can beat you, but you being at 0 life doesn't mean anything because that's where you want to be anyways. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll try to put a video out there, but Rebecca destroys yellow. I wish I played against 10 yellow players in the Treasure Cup. I would have went undefeated at that point then, but I did not. Now, I did lose, let's see, to 4 yellow players in total. So there, you can still like I said, that's why I'm giving them 20%. But it's just because I was greedy. I remember one game, let's see, I think it was in locals. Was it locals? I think it was locals. I swung 20k. I swung 20k at life to category that had nothing on the board, but they had like 8 cards in hand. So I'm like, there's no way. They have all 2Ks, and they had 8 2Ks, so 21k counter, and I lost. I was like, whoa. But that was my mistake. I just assumed they didn't have 8 2Ks in hand, plus having 4 2Ks in trash, so all 12 2Ks have been seen. That's crazy. I know some run 14 sometimes, but still, what's the chances? So that was one of my losses. The other loss was I thought Sabo effect was activated, so I swung and then I got hit with a Thunderbolt and they killed my Sabo. So then I didn't have 2 blockers to defend, and that's how I lost. So you know what I'm saying? So point being, like, little mistakes like that is how you lose against yellow. But as long as you don't make those silly mistakes, then you should be fine. I just don't see how yellow players can beat the Rebecca, unless it's the Rebecca's fault. So there you go. I'm just over here destroying yellow, so let me just move on. But so yeah, I'll try to post a video out there. I mean, and another thing is, don't worry about time. So same thing with Queen. If you're not going to time against Queen, which is the most grindiest match that you're gonna do ever with Rebecca, that's an average between 35 to 39 minutes against the Queen player. Once you know what to do. Against yellow, on average, once you know what to do, it's 30 minutes. So yeah, in the beginning it's gonna be a grind. There's gonna be mistakes being played, but once you know what to do, on average it's a 30 minutes match. So don't worry about timing yourself out. That is the game with Rebecca. She is a grindy deck to play, because she is the late game queen. So that's where you want to be always. So that's it. So yellow, very easy. And another thing just to mention again, just to destroy yellow even more, it's Yamato, Big Mom, and category, all of them. It doesn't matter which leader they pick, they're all very easy for the Rebecca player. Next one will be green. So, but the caveat with green is I never played against Kinemon, so I don't know the Kinemon versus Rebecca matchup. I'm assuming it's almost the same against the other green, but remember, Kinemon can kind of rush down faster, so that could play a part against Rebecca. That's why I really emphasize to run the 3 swords and the Bastardos, just in case they swarm very fast. Especially against that banished Yamato, you want to be very, very careful. So because I don't know against Kinemon, just ignore the Kinemon so far, because I never played against it. Never in a treasure cup, never in locals. So I don't know how Rebecca does against Kinemon specifically. But against Kid Film, Supernova Kid, regular Dofi, and then the Dofi Film, especially the Dofi Film, it's your best match. There's nothing they can do. It's almost like 100% win rate against green. Obviously, that's never the case. There's, in a card game that you could break, it should never be 100%, but it just feels like that. It's like a 90-10. Let's just give it like that. So 90% win rate, 10% chance that green players should beat you. Because there's nothing they can do. You just control the field. You bottom deck their stuff. And then tech Rebecca, this tech version, the against green just feels even easier with your e-shows and your 10 drops, because I don't know, it's just my opinion, they can't do nothing to their Lumbuses. So you can build Lumbuses with no fear. You can build your e-shows, your 10 drops, your Luffy is doing Luffy things. So it's a very easy matchup, and green topping and winning a lot. Same thing with yellow topping and winning a lot. This is the main reason you should play Rebecca. Like, if you remember from the 50-50 match all the way to you destroying everything, it's like all the meta decks. You're hitting Queen at 50-50, you're mirror matching at 50-50, you're beating all the red and red greens. Used to be meta decks, but they're still playable. You're 50-50 with the red purple decks that a lot of people are gonna play now. You're doing amazing with the pure purple that a lot of people are playing about. You're doing amazing against the other black players, the black colored players. You're doing very well against them. You're doing very well against the green decks that are very popular right now as well. So all these are positives to why you should play Rebecca in this meta. The only two things that you should be worried about is the pure blue Croc and the pure blue Dofi. And pure blue Dofi is like, but pure blue Croc for sure. So unless the whole treasure cup is going to be pure blue Croc, that's the only rationale you shouldn't play Rebecca. But all from here to here, it's most of the meta decks is most likely what you're going to play against. So that's my rationale why you should play Rebecca. She's a very good deck, very strong deck that can play basically against every deck except for pure blue Croc. And again, I don't know all the rogue decks, like blue purple Kaido could be a thing, blue purple Croc maybe could, because as long as they incorporate blue, it's a little harder for Rebecca, as you notice that pattern. So there could be other decks that could destroy her, but we're just going by the meta decks. She's doing very well with 99% of them, except for the pure blue Croc and maybe the pure blue Dofi. So there you go, guys. That is the rationale why you should play her. Those are the matchups. Those are your worst matchups and your best matchups. And I think that's all I got for you guys. Hopefully that's not a long video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the deck list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the matchups. Thank you guys for watching. For the comments below, there's somebody that wants for me to do more tips and tricks with Rebecca. I did a little bit there, but obviously that's not what this video was about. So I'm hoping when I post a Katakuri match, in that video I'm going to put more tips and tricks and then examples on what you should do. So keep an eye out for that video. That will be the next video I'm going to work on, which is going to take me longer because it is a gameplay video. Other than that, guys, if you have any questions or anything else you guys want me to post, I am going to post as much. I'm trying to post as much as I can like I am now. It's just, it takes me a while to put up these videos. Like this video alone, it has been taking me almost 3 hours just because I have to pause and restart and blah, blah, blah. So I'm just very inefficient, and that's the main problem. So other than that, I'm going to try my best, guys. I'll try to post as much as I can. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for watching. And other than that, They Run TCG signing out.